So many of you Negroes with your double standards never cease to amaze me. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. So many of you niggas with your double standards never cease to amaze me. Now what's bringing this on? Well, has something to do with this whole Paula Deen event and issue and what. See, the fact of the matter is, I don't care about Paula Deen, and I don't care about the Paula Deen case, and I don't care about all the controversy surrounding this little sea hag right now. My issue is not with her, but it's with how we're just letting our emotions get in the way of thinking rationally, thinking logically, thinking consistently, and thinking without the emotionalism and the hypocrisy and being dead set on an agenda to push our views just in one straight rigid line without seeing it as a multifaceted thing that it is. And so I've spoken on this numerous times already, to where it's getting to sound like it's rehashing and redundancy, and I don't want it to come across that way, even though I will probably still be making a few of the same points that I've made earlier. But I had to throw this out as a bit of an addendum because the smoking horsehead who likes to champion these types of issues and throw his emotional spin on it without taking into consideration all the different facets, because he's just dead set on pushing one idea, one focus, one point of view. And though he breaks down his arguments in such a way, or he makes his comparisons in such a way that makes it seem as though he's put a lot of thought into it and that he's making rational judgments and explaining things in a way that essentially will support his argument, when you really scrutinize it and place it under the microscope and dissect it, you really see it for essentially the empty bucket as it is. It doesn't really stand up to any amount of examination. It can't support its own weight. It's just a bucket that's full of holes that whatever you put into it, though it seems like it's holding something, once you lift it up, it all runs out and it becomes empty and dry again. And he's done this a number of times before. Most notably when Dr. Laura Schlesinger went on her little, what people called a radio rant, which I tried to show the other alternative, which was, look, here's the situation here. She's actually making a point. I actually have to defend somebody who I totally, utterly despise simply because I see where she's going with that. And that wasn't allowed to stand. Nobody who towed the line with him on that essentially got shut down from interacting with him. And so I took the hint and I just said, okay, you go ahead, do your little emotional thing, you be all high strung about that, and I'll just go do my thing, as it were. But apparently this seems to be like one of his favorite pet projects, is to just point out racism either where there is no racism or where it's not being blatant. And I'm not saying that's the case with this Paula Deen situation. Clearly the woman has some issues with her views as to people's racial identity and their capabilities and what all. But as I said, this is not about her. There's enough about her. There's enough people talking about her. There are enough people arguing and forming their little points of view about her and about her situation, that there's more than enough information for anybody to come away with some understanding and some sense of who this person really is. But as I said, she's not the issue. The smoking horsehead is the issue at this point, because in trying to support his perspective and his particular view on the matter, the way he breaks things down, as I said, makes it seem like he puts a lot of thought into his arguments. But ultimately what it comes down to is that he's throwing you curveballs. He's essentially doing a little tap dance and side steps. He's kind of like the stage magician with the whole sleight of hand thing, where while he's distracting you in one area, he's secretly doing something else under the table or what have you. And you come away with, oh, that was brilliant, that was excellent, oh man, you're just the master at this, that, or the other. And it's like, no. Once you expose the trickery, and I'm not saying he's doing this deliberately, I honestly believe that he's very sincere in the arguments and the explanations that he brings forth. But I'm saying that they don't hold any weight. And in this latest instance, where people whose viewpoints on situations like this, he's trying to paint us as though we're saying things or that we're claiming things or that we're promoting certain ideas that in fact we are not. And so he uses this false argument to explain how we're essentially the accusation is we're giving carte blanche to racist white folks to essentially continue to disrespect us and to use all sorts of derogatory language toward us that's intended to dehumanize us, that's intended to kind of put us in our place or whatever that all that situation is. And for those who aren't entirely clear on what I'm making reference to, this goes back, as I've stated, to my own perspective on this thing. And as I said, there are a number of people that share the same or similar perspectives on this, which comes down to the fact that don't point fingers at somebody like a Paula Deen, who's admitted to using the racial epithet of nigger, whatever. And first of all, what did you expect the woman to do? Just flat out lie that, oh hey, I'm an old country southern white gal, I ain't never used the N-word? Bullshit, Bwana. There ain't nobody in this country with pink skin that has never ever used the so-called N-word. Not a single one. So we can discount that myth right there. So there's no need to ask a white person whether or not they ever used the racial epithet of nigger or what you want to call the N-word, because they have. It's just a simple fact of life. Get over it and get used to it. Now, does that mean that simply because we acknowledge that white people in America use the N-word, that means that we're just giving them free license to do it, or that we're making excuses for them to do it, or that we're giving them a pass for doing it? Hell to the effing no. And yet, this is the argument that the smoking horsehead wants to throw out there as though this is what we're doing, when we make the argument that, look, stop pointing your finger at white folks who, out of ignorance or out of spite, come up into our face or within earshot of us and start throwing the N-word all around, when you do it 24/7, 365. And see, that's why I started out this commentary talking about you Negroes. Because here's the situation. How is it that I, as an African American, can refer to my fellow African Americans as Negroes, which is a term which has some legitimacy, especially in our culture and in our history, and yet you mofos will have this knot in your stomach and this sinking feeling, and you'll get your ire built up and you'll get offended at the term Negro. So much so that even if a fellow black person uses the word to refer to us/you, you want to start fighting somebody, you want to smack somebody around, you want to shake something, you want to kick something. Yet, say the other N-word, oh man, we're reclaiming that, we're taking the power away from her, we're taking the sting away from her, we're claiming that's our term, and okay, so you're reclaiming it and you're taking the sting away from it and all this other good stuff. So again, we raise the question, why can't Caucasians use it? Because of history, man. Exactly. You see the point? You don't want to give somebody historical license to do something that's going to be offensive to you, or that's going to be intended to hurt you or slam you in some sort of a way, and then just kind of sidestep it and make an excuse for it and say, well, it's okay for us to do it. So that's your double standard. To say that it's okay for us to disrespect ourselves, but it's not okay for somebody else to disrespect us. But see, the smoking horsehead wants to turn that around. And we're making the argument, it's like, look, you can't play this thing two-faced. If you're going to make the exception for us, you got to make the exception for them too. And that's not saying that we're saying that we want them to go ahead and start using it and we shouldn't take offense of it. I'm saying the exact opposite. We're all saying the exact opposite, those of us who take this position. We're saying, no, the principle is, if it's not good enough for them to use, it's not good enough for us to use either. In other words, they shouldn't use it because we shouldn't use it. Nobody should use it.
simply because it is what it is, and it has that nasty history and connotation attached to it. But see, the smoking horsehead wants to throw out examples like, well, just because you use your car, that means that somebody else can come around and use your car too. It's just because you use your house, that means anybody else can walk in and use your house. What kind of a BS argument and explanation is that? See, for those of you who aren't sharp enough to see exactly what he's doing, and as I said, I don't know if he's doing it deliberately as a way to trick you into buying his spin on things, or if he's honestly sincere and he doesn't see how empty that argument is. But either way, it doesn't hold any kind of weight whatsoever, because we're not talking about crabs versus crabs. What he's doing is comparing crabs to crawfish. So on the surface, his argument sounds correct. Yeah, just because I use my motorcycle doesn't mean I want somebody to just come in arbitrarily and just take my motorcycle and run off with it and whatnot. That's stupidiocy. Nobody in their right mind will subscribe to something like that. So in a situation like this, it doesn't match up. Here's a better matchup. If you want to use an analogy to describe what we're trying to propose as far as who has the right and who doesn't have the right, or if it's even a legitimate argument, then try something like this. You call your little baby girl fat and ugly. She grows up through her elementary school years. Every day of her life, you're calling her fat and ugly and nappy head and all that whatever stuff. She hits puberty, goes through high school. She gets laughed at, she gets ignored, because all you're doing is you're not showing her love, you're not showing her kindness, you're not showing her respect, you're not treating her like she's something of value or importance to you. You're just constantly slamming on her and shoving her in front of the train. You're calling her fat and ugly all the time, fat and ugly. She graduates high school, she goes to college. You're still calling her fat and ugly. She graduates college, goes into the workforce, or gets into the family business, what have you, and still, 24/7, 365, you're calling your own daughter fat and ugly. Throughout her entire life, all she's ever known was mommy and daddy calling her fat and ugly. So now, after her being called fat and ugly all her life, and you're doing it within earshot of other people, you're doing it around her friends, you're doing it around your neighbors, you do it around your house guests, you even, when she's not around, you go to work and you talk about your children, you share photographs with your coworkers and whatnot, and every single time you make any kind of reference to her, you're calling her fat and ugly. Don't start copying an attitude when, after all you've ever done was call your little girl fat and ugly for her entire life, that somebody picks up on it and it says, well, hey, if you've got no respect for her, if you're not going to treat her with any sort of dignity or with any sort of sense of value or worth or anything that you seem to be proud of, if she's fat and ugly in your mind, then I guess that's the way that you relate to her. So it's just call her fat and ugly. So, okay, I'll call her fat and ugly too. Oh, what? You want to fight? Because I called your daughter fat and ugly? And yet you've been doing it your entire life. Now see, that's the difference. That's when we're comparing crabs to crabs or crawfish to crawfish. Has nothing to do with somebody saying, oh, well, you get to use this derogatory term, but somebody else can't get to use it because you wouldn't want somebody to just walk in your house and use your house arbitrarily because you own the house and you use the house. That's a BS argument. If somebody did that, they would be committing a crime. That's why you take offense. But if you do something like shove your own child in front of the train by making them feel lower and less than, then you shouldn't be surprised if somebody else says, hey, well, it's okay to call his kid fat and ugly then, because that's all he ever does is call his own daughter fat and ugly. He does it all the time, every day. He doesn't even open his mouth about her unless he's calling her fat and ugly. So if I take that bait, then why are you going to get upset with me? Huh? You can't do it. So you see, there has to be consistency. If you don't want somebody calling your daughter fat and ugly, it starts with you. You don't call your daughter fat and ugly. So that way, when you show that she's appreciated, that she's loved, that she's someone you have respect for, and you want other people to respect her, and they come around and they start throwing fat and ugly at her, whether she is or not is irrelevant. But you want people to have the sense of, this is my child, you don't disrespect her. And then you damn right you take offense at somebody calling your daughter something that you yourself would not dare call her. But see, this is not how y'all do with the so-called N-word. You want to play it two-faced. You want to have this double standard. And then when somebody who's within your own group tries to point this out to you on a logical level, saying like, hey, look, if you don't want them calling us that, we need to stop calling ourselves that. Oh, you're just giving them carte blanche. You're just giving them a pass to just go ahead and talk disrespectful of us. No, we're not. We're trying to tell you nobody talks disrespectfully about us, especially us, because we are the first line of defense against anybody who tries to disrespect us. Minister Louis Farrakhan had given a speech back in 89, 88, 89, and he said something that was very spot on, and it was one of the very few parts of that speech that I had actually committed to memory that just seared a permanent brand right into my heart. And this was when he was trying to essentially encourage these gangbangers to get out of these hood gangs and to stop wasting their lives away. And he said something that was very poignant. And he said, quote, "Don't you realize the white man would never kill you if you weren't so quick to kill one another," unquote. In other words, no one will disrespect you unless you show that you're not going to stand in the way of somebody disrespecting you simply by the fact that all you do is disrespect yourself. In fact, I'm not sure how many people remember Robert Law or Bob Law had an overnight talk program on major black radio stations called Night Talk. He's still around. I don't know what he's doing nowadays. But as part of his greetings to his callers, or their greetings to him, they had two standout greetings that they would have. One would be Namaskar, which the way it was explained was that it's a Hindu term which essentially means the divinity in me recognizes the divinity in you. Whether that's accurate or not, I don't know, but that was the explanation that was given. But the other one, and the foremost one that they would always use whenever someone called into his program, first thing out of their mouth, respect yourself. That was their greeting to each other. Respect yourself. And then when they would call in, Bob Law would acknowledge their call. He would respond with, "I respect you." That's how we win at this game. That's how we can have a healthy sense of indignation when somebody who is not of our group does something that is intended on hurting us or belittling us or insulting us, whatever. We start by saying, we don't do it to ourselves, so you don't do it to us either. Because if you do it to us, then there's going to be hell to pay. But see, you still want to play that there's going to be hell to pay angle of it, but not fix the problem, which is, of course, they're going to look at the situation and they're going to ask the simple, logical question. Why do you get to do it and we don't? And no excuse that you're going to make is going to be a satisfactory excuse for them, because it reeks of hypocrisy and two-faced. And so they shouldn't respect you. As long as you refuse to respect yourself, nobody should respect you. So, on that level, let white folks call us niggas all they want to. No, I'm not saying that that's giving them free reign and permission to do just that, but I'm saying that's the situation that you're putting them in. You're essentially saying, it's all right. Why are you getting upset with us when we do it? Never mind the history part of it. History ain't got nothing to do with it. Because even if you took the term away from them, they'll find another term. See, you have to change the attitude. And that's the hardest thing to do. But you can at least start by restricting what they use to get your goat. Which is why I advocated, like, look, if you want to play this two-faced thing with the word nigga, okay, fine. Go all the way with it. See that little symbol of old Confederate South? That little X-crossed rag of 13 stars and the little red field with the little dark blue X in it? Yeah, the Confederate battle flag and the Confederate Navy Jack. Make that your symbol. Take it away from white folks, or at least adopt it right along with white folks, just to show them, hey, look, we ain't going to let this thing bother us anymore. We're going to take the sting out of it. We're going to reclaim it because, after all, it is our symbol when you really think about it, because it's essentially the symbol that shows that, hey, this is the cause you fought for the insidious purpose that you fought for it, and yet your cause failed. And since your cause failed, under these symbols, which we understand what it represents, we're going to adopt it as our symbol just so that we can keep throwing it in your face to let you know that you lost. But no, you Negroes are too damned emotional to even see the logic in that. But you don't get offended if I call y'all niggas all day long 24/7. Strange hypocrisy. I don't know how y'all do it. But as I said before, and as I'll keep saying, as long as you keep doing it, you'll be doing it without my support and without my sanction and without my participation. End of line.